Hey Warriors, welcome back to Empowerment and Illness. Last week we heard part 1 of Rising Above, Dara's journey of resilience and positivity through autoimmune challenges. Let's continue with part 2, already in progress. When I seen you on TikTok, because I scroll and I try to find people, but I stop and I listen. I like to listen and see. Your energy is just outstanding. You're positive. You talk about what's going on. You're very supportive of anybody that's in there that has anything going on with them. That's what drew me to wanting to talk to you.
That means so much to me. You have no idea how much that means to me. It's really changed my life. So going on TikTok Live, I started about 2 years ago. I would go live giving myself my medicine. And for probably the first year, I had a little bit of people would come in, and the last 4 months, it has really taken off. And I've been so blessed. I prayed to God about it. I really wanted an outlet. I wanted a way where I could give back to society because I feel like I'm not contributing. And I know a lot of people with chronic health issues can relate to that. You feel like you're not contributing and you feel like you're just a burden. First of all, you're not a burden. Let me just say that. You are not a burden. But I did feel as though I wasn't contributing to society. So I started going live, and I wanted to educate people on ports because whenever I would go out for doctor's appointments, if anyone saw me and they looked at the port on my chest, it's basically a permanent long-term IV access. So I'm able to give myself IV medications and fluids. They would look at it like, oh my goodness, what is that thing? Like, what is wrong with this girl? Why does she have that tube coming out of her chest? They would look at me like sometimes in horror, like, oh, like it would scare them. Which I understand because I didn't even know what a port was until they said, we're putting one in your body. So I can understand that. So I thought, if I go live and I show people this, maybe one day one of those people will come across someone with a port and they'll say, hey, I know what that is. It's not something scary. It's something that's helping this person. I know what that is. And maybe they'd even strike up a conversation. So I really just started it, but I wanted to help the stigma and I wanted to show people what it was. And it's also interesting. I didn't know what it was before I got sick. And then as I started going live more often, I realized that I'm not sure if it's the TikTok algorithm, but it seems that a lot of people with chronic illnesses end up in my lives. And helping people and showing them that things can be okay, that things are really tough right now. I'm here. There's someone who understands you. I chat with people all day, and I love it. Selfishly, this is my social life. Besides helping people, which I love, I get to talk to other humans. Even though they're speaking back in through text, I'm still talking to people. For so long, I didn't get to do that.
Exactly. It makes you feel comfortable to where you can talk about what's going on with you. And then they ask you questions, and then you're giving all this, information about you. And I know they get off the phone thinking, okay, I feel better.
It means so much to me. You have no idea. Knowing that I can just help one person makes it all worth it. And I pray a lot. If I'm supposed to continue to do this, send me more people that I can benefit. And every single night, there's more. So that just tells me this is what I'm meant to do right now. It really has changed my life. It means so much to me. It's crazy because people will tell me, oh my goodness, I can't believe I just found you. I'm having a port placed. One person was having their port placed in the morning. And they were like, please, can we talk about it? Can you give me more information? What do I ask? What do I do? Because they don't give you enough information. They didn't give me enough information. I wish I had a me that I could have spoken to,
right,
when I got my port placed. So being that person for people, it means more to me than everyone could know. It really does. Just helping people is something I really enjoy. And it really has changed my life for the better. And I'm so glad that you scrolled and you found me.
That's one of the reasons I started this podcast. I've had lupus for a long time. When I started, I didn't have anybody. I got lupus when I was 27. They told my mom that I would make it through the night.
When you were in the hospital?
Yes. That day he rolled me over and he said he was going to take care of me. Yes.
Oh my goodness, that must have been traumatizing and terrifying.
He just told me he was taking care of me and I got anything that I wanted. So I'm like, this is my very first time being in the hospital, ever being sick. So I thought, okay.
Oh, you're like, okay, I'm going to get better. He's about to fix me and I'm going to roll out of here all good. Meanwhile, they're like...
I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have anything, so I don't know what's going on. If he says he's going to take care of me, and then I started feeling better. He gave me a bunch of medication. I started feeling better. Now, Showstopper has always been around, so I was completely exhausted all the time, but I started getting better. Sores in my mouth were going away. Got an appetite. I still had kidney issues, and I had to see a nephrologist, but things started getting a lot better for me. When you meet people and when you're on the podcast, I said, I want to make sure that I can help someone. If I had someone to say, this is where we are, this is what you got, this is what you need to do, because I didn't know I needed to be an advocate. I wasn't sure what I needed to tell the doctor who I first saw. I didn't know what questions to ask. I just said, can you help? And he said yes, so I went to see him every day. I thought something was wrong that I had to go every day, because I'm thinking, do you go to the doctor every day?
You had no prior understanding or knowledge. And why would you, you know?
Like I said, I'd never been sick. So...
That's amazing. You had never been in the hospital. Not once.
Not once.
How terrifying.
And to go and have that
be your first experience? Yeah.
He tested me for everything. Every childhood disease, every communicable disease. I was tested for it all. And everything came back. And he kept saying, I don't know what's wrong. Now,
but he didn't give up.
He didn't give up. When I finally found the rheumatologist and I was telling him about it, he said that he actually saved my life because he gave me fluids every day.
Yeah.
If he wouldn't have done that, my kidneys would have failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, can't hate on him too much. At least he did try. But I believe a lot of the time when someone's having you come in every day and doing these kind of things without actually trying to find an answer, they're in it for the money. Let's just be real here. I mean, he made a lot of money with you coming in every day.
Yes, and I didn't go through the door like the regular patients. I went through another door.
You're going right through the back. He's like, come on in.
There was an office that they had a bed in that they used. It was so much of a storage, but you could tell that they let people come in sometimes, and I stayed in that room all day. I went early in the morning, and I would stay all day and leave when he left.
Wow.
I couldn't drive myself, so I had different people from the church and my boyfriend. Now, when we talked about how we lost people, I lost my boyfriend too. He said he couldn't stay because he didn't want to be around someone that was that sick. He couldn't take it watching me die.
I was also in a relationship at the time, and they can't handle it. I can empathize. That's why I don't try to date now. Even if I could, what am I going to do? Take my dad with me on a date, like to push me in my wheelchair and be like, here you go. You know, I'm in a vulnerable situation. I'm in a reclining wheelchair. I'm not going to go meet a stranger. So what, am I going to have my dad with me? Like, no, that doesn't sound romantic or very fun. But you do in some ways feel like a burden, and that you wouldn't be able to do the things that you can do with a partner. You wouldn't be able to go out to dinner or go to the movies. So it's not really part of my life. But at that time when he left, it's just devastating because it's like, well, you were supposed to love me.
Right.
Why does this change? Why does it change because you aren't strong enough or man enough to stick by when you're dealing with this kind of thing? But, people want to live their lives.
I can tell you, lupus made me stronger.
Amen.
I am a completely different person. I don't ask why. I don't ask what should I have done, what could I have done. I just say I must be like Job.
Yes!
He knows what he's doing. I just gotta, sit there and okay. Yeah.
Keep on going. You just say, this is the cards I was dealt, and I don't know why, but those are my cards, and we're going to make the best of it, and we're going to keep on trucking, no matter what.
And that's what I do, yeah. So, podcast, if I can hit one person.
You do.
I'm
help
successful.
So many people. You help so many people. Just doing this is just such a joy. It's such a joyful thing for me. It has uplifted my spirit so much, just even knowing that, you asked me to do this. And when you first came into my life and I saw your name, the lupus chick, I'm like, she gets it. She knows what I'm dealing with. She already knows all this stuff that I'm talking about. She understands. And then when you brought up, you had a podcast, I thought that's incredible. You are teaching so many people about what we deal with. And not only that, you're bringing in others. So I want to hear more about your story. But you are so selfless that you're bringing in others to tell our own story. And that is just incredible. And everyone has a different story, but you start to see so many similarities with each and every person. And it changes people. What you're doing is changing lives. It really is, Gwen. It really is. And I'm really proud of you. Because I know some days, Showstopper comes in and says, I'm stopping the show.
Showstopper was here yesterday.
Yep, and that's okay. It was for me too,
when we were supposed to meet, but when you called, I was like, maybe I should cancel. But I try to put mine on the back burner as much as I can. If anybody listens to the podcast and all the different shows, you can hear in my voice, oh, she didn't feel good that day.
Yes, she was not doing good that day. Girl, you could have told me, because I understand. 100% you could have told me, can I do it another day? I had to do that to you how many times?
But that's why I tell everyone, I get it. I will wait. I will sit. We'll get it together. It will happen. Don't worry about it. And that's why I always put on there, no worries. Don't worry about it. I know what it's like. The reason I chose the name Empowerment and Illness, we all have a story. And everybody gets online and they talk about the bad stuff, how much pain they're in, what drugs they have to take, what side effects they have to deal with. And when you focus on that, it gives you a negative tone to it.
It does.
When you go into your story and you make fun of it, fatigue is bad to us. It takes everything away from us. We can barely go to the restroom and take a shower, right?
Yep.
So if we miss a shower or get a shower today, yes, I did it.
It's a big step. It's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
For somebody else, that's a normal bodily function or a normal thing they have to do every day. To us, it's like, woohoo, I did it.
Exactly. So we can celebrate that, and we put positive spins on it. That's why I call fatigue Showstopper.
I love that.
It doesn't give it a negative tone. It makes it feel like you got a visitor. They're coming in and just stealing everything away from you, so you just got to give them all this attention. And then when they're gone, you can go back. So that's what I do. I try to put a positive spin on it.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. I love that. I do the same thing in different ways, but I'm going to start using that. I'm going to start giving different names.
And that gives it a different tone. Sometimes I know folks aren't ready for somebody to be a cheerleader, right? You don't want to hear it like, I don't want to hear that today. So I try to listen, and I'm like, yes, I give you hugs and positive energy. I'm sending it your way. And then I'll wait, and I'll go back, and I'll look and see how they're doing. just checking on you, making sure you're good, and then I'll say something like, hey, this happened to you, but you got through it, and I'm glad. Don't let Showstopper stop you. She's a beast.
Those kind of words, though, and that kind of encouragement and empowerment can change a life, and it does. It really does. And that should mean so much to you. Yeah. I know it means a lot to me when someone tells me that I've changed their outlook. That's huge.
I told you, I just need one person. And exactly. When I get one person, I smile so much, and I'm like, okay, now I need to find one more.
Yes.
And so now I've created what I call the community. I want everybody. We all got different illnesses, but it's a community now. And we all need to bond together, whether it's cancer, lupus, dysautonomia, POTS, right? Yep. Whatever it is.
All of it.
All of it. We come together and we support regardless.
Yes. I completely agree. And a lot of people sometimes in my lives will say, well, I feel bad talking about my health issues because they're not as bad as yours. And I say, oh, no. Do not say that. There is no comparison. If you don't feel good, if you're in pain, that's horrible. It doesn't matter if my diagnosis is a longer list than yours. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Pain is pain.
Yeah.
Feeling sick is feeling sick. And it's horrible. So there needs to be no competition. I hate that. I hate when you see it a lot in different support groups and different communities. It's like a competition, a hierarchy of who's the sickest. No, if you don't feel good, that's not fun. It doesn't matter the severity or none of that matters. If someone isn't feeling good, they deserve support. They're in pain, they deserve support. None of that should even be a factor.
Absolutely. That's how I feel too. That's why it's a community.
Yes. Communities can change so many lives.
That's what we're going to do.
I have the biggest smile on my face right now. I was in a lot of pain this morning. I woke up having a rough day. Just you and doing this with me, I have the biggest smile on my face, and that smile is going to stay for the rest of the day. It really is.
The healthcare system, what are your pros and cons?
It took a very long time for me to be diagnosed, an extremely long time. Like I said, I was in a very rural area at the time, so I was seeing local doctors that did not keep up with new medical information, we'll just put it that way. And a tiny, horrible little hospital that always ended up doing something wrong. This is just one story for you. I had my appendix taken out. It's funny, the first time I went to the hospital, horrible abdominal pain. It really was the gastroparesis, but we didn't know at the time. We didn't know what was going on. Dealing with this horrible digestive issue, really bad pain in my abdomen. And we go in, and this doctor's like, maybe it's your appendix. You should let me take your appendix out. And I'm like, why do you think it's my appendix? He's like, well, the imaging doesn't show anything, but it still could be your appendix. And I'm like, well, thank you. Maybe not. We'll just go home. Let's go home, guys. So we go home, and then maybe about a month later, I end up back in the ER. That same doctor came walking in my room. You ready for me to take your appendix out? What if I take your appendix out and it fixes all your problems? That could be what's causing all your issues. What if it's like basically rotting inside of you and making you sick? What if I take your appendix out and it cures you? Wouldn't that be amazing? I'm looking at my parents and I'm like, man, this guy really, really wants to take my appendix out. Kind of weird, but like, he's very passionate about taking out my appendix. I don't need it, so I guess so. Okay, let's take my appendix out. That was a big mistake. Big mistake. I woke up after that surgery, and obviously you wake up from surgery and you're in a lot of pain, but my pain was extreme, severe, horrendous pain. And I immediately, when I woke up, I said, something's wrong. Something's wrong. This is not normal surgical pain. Something is wrong. And over the next 6 months, I went to so many different doctors. I couldn't sit up straight. Physically, it felt like there was something holding my from my pelvic area to like right under my ribs. It felt like there was something stuck, and I couldn't physically straighten my back. Couldn't do it. I was always hunched over, even though I was laying down anyway. But when I would try to be upright, I was hunched over. Could not sit up straight. Something's wrong. Kept saying, something's wrong. We went to so many surgeons, and they're like, well, when he originally took my appendix out, he showed us a picture, and he said, look, it was black, and it was hard as a rock, your appendix. So it was definitely, it needed to come out, and I found a lot of endometriosis. I believe he said he cauterized it. So he's like, look at this nasty picture, look at your appendix. They sent it off for pathology, and the pathology came back normal, but there was nothing wrong with my appendix. From what he showed me, it looked like, I mean, I don't really know what an appendix looked like. I looked afterwards, but it was this gross black thing, and he said it was really hard. So I'm seeing all these other surgeons, and they're like, well, yeah, it seems like, you know, he took your appendix out. And I'm like, yes, but now something's wrong, and I need help. All of them would be like, no, you're fine, you're fine. Finally, I saw a pelvic pain specialist, and he is one of my all-time favorite humans on this planet. He is an amazing doctor, amazing physician. We walked in there, and he took one look at me. We're telling him, you know, my story, and he goes, why don't we go in and look? And I looked at my dad, and I was like, oh my goodness, thank God. Somebody's finally going to go in and look around. That's all I've been asking for. You ready to hear what they found?
What?
First off, there were 4 surgical clips floating around inside of me, stabbing me every which way, stabbing into my sides, into my tissue, just floating around aimlessly, doing their thing. What? Yep, left surgical clips in there. Sometimes they do leave surgical clips in they weren't locking off anything. They were floating around, cutting me, stabbing me on the inside. Then, so it was originally, this surgery was supposed to be like 45 minutes, exploratory surgery. He was in there for over 6 hours. There was a muscle. My muscle had gotten wrapped around a nerve, my obturator nerve, I believe, in your pelvic area. That's why I couldn't sit up. Every time I tried to sit up, that nerve that was encased in muscle was being yanked on. So he went in and he removed that entire nerve. So my right hip from about halfway down my thigh up to like my hip bone is numb. I don't really feel it. I don't have a lot of sensation, but it's way better than the pain I was in, that's for sure. It turned out he didn't cauterize the endometriosis. He cut it out. There were all these little like incisions or like cut where he just like tried to cut it out instead of cauterizing it. And there was a lot of endometriosis. There was a hernia, all kinds of stuff that no one would go in and look. All these other doctors said, no, nothing's wrong. He was like, oh yeah, there was a lot wrong. There was a lot going on. He was just amazing. You know, it was a bit of a recuperation from that surgery, but so much better after that. And he continued to help me for years. He continues to help me to this day, even though I'm no longer in the same state that he practices in. You can see him over state lines. So I'm still in contact with him. He will forever be one of my favorite doctors. So those kind of ones really outshine the other ones. I've had many horrendous doctors who treated me like a guinea pig. My first port placement, so I have a power port. I think I said this a little earlier. It is long-term IV access. So there's a device under my skin, under my collarbone, that is like a reservoir. And there's like a lid, basically a self-sealing kind of silicone lid over top of it. And that's all under the skin. And then there is a tube that goes up under my collarbone up to my neck. And then it is inserted into my artery, and then it goes down right to the edge of my heart so I can give myself IV medication at home. My nurse comes once a week and places the needle into the port, changes it once a week so I can give myself medicine. The first surgeon who put my port in, who was a young man, and he was like, yeah, I'll put the port in, it's fine, it's no big deal. Wake up from surgery, and I did not do enough research on what the port was. They're just telling me I need it. I kept getting blood clots from regular IVs. I needed a lot of fluids like you were doing. I was getting fluids constantly because it helped. And my veins were collapsing. I was getting literal blood clots that would start as superficial clots, but then clot all the way up my arm and turn into deep vein thrombosis. So I was on blood thinners twice, and then they said, okay, we're going to put in the port. He puts it in, and the nurse comes to access it for the first time, and he placed it really low and deep into my chest area. And we had a really hard time accessing, and it was very painful. And she kept saying, it's not supposed to be like this. It should be easy. He placed it really deep and really too low. So I contact him, and I say, something's wrong. My nurse is struggling to access this. Why was it placed so deep? And he goes, oh, I was trying to hide it for you. Sir, I don't need it hidden. I need it to work. And he goes, okay, I'll move it up, I guess. So he goes in, he takes the port itself, moves it up to a easier place to use, closes me up. Nurse comes a couple weeks later, tries to access, hard as a rock. She's like, something's wrong. Port's not supposed to be like this. It is hard as a rock. She would push. It was really painful because you pierce through the skin when you're accessing a port. Mm-hmm. Really painful to access. Couldn't get the needle in. And I'm like, what is going on? Call the doctor. Doctor, nurse can't access the port. What's going on? He goes, maybe it was a faulty one. All right, I'll go in there and He goes in, he unscrews the port itself, screws another one back on, sews me back up. A couple weeks go by, nurse comes back, same exact thing. Port's hard as a rock. Can't get the needle in. We called the doctor's office and we're like, what is going on? And they immediately started to say, well, it sounds like a patient error. My nurse did not play around. She got on that phone and she said, excuse me? A patient error? Are you trying to say that it's my fault? Because I've accessed hundreds of these. I've never felt a port like this. It's hard as a rock. The needle will not go in. This is 2 times now that we've had this issue. This is unacceptable. This is not her fault. You're trying to say that I didn't train her correctly? I'm the one trying to access it. So you're saying that I'm not doing my job correctly? She did not play around. At that point, they're like trying to blame me for it. I called the manufacturer of the port itself. And I explained to him the situation. I said the first time it was too low, and he moved it up, and then after that, it's just been hard as a rock. And he goes, when he did the first surgery, the second surgery, when he moved it up, did he change the catheter? I said, no, he just moved it up. Because he did that surgery without replacing the catheter? I said, no, he didn't. He goes, the second time, did he just unscrew the port and not change the catheter? I said, no, he didn't. He goes, that is not how this surgery is to be done. You never, ever do this surgery without replacing the catheter. You need to go to the hospital right now and you need to get a port study done. And I'm putting this in your chart. You're going to need another surgery. He knew already what was about to happen. He said, if I don't put this in your chart, your insurance isn't going to cover any more of these ports because they're going to say it's your fault. You need to go right now. We go to the hospital. They have me lay in all kinds of weird positions because they couldn't get the needle in the port. They finally got it in. They start to get a little bit dye in for the port study. They just put in a dye and then they do an x-ray to see where everything is. And then all of a sudden, boom, it stops. They can't get any more in. They get me up there. They get a picture. During the first surgery, the second surgery, when he moved the port up, he didn't remeasure the catheter. You have to imagine it has to be a very specific length because it has to end right where your heart begins. This tube was all the way in my lower left ventricle up against my heart wall. So anytime they tried to access or tried to flush fluids or do any blood return, it was sucking on my heart wall. So there was back pressure. That's why it was never working. I have the pictures. It literally, the tubing goes all the way in through my heart. They immediately said, you need surgery immediately. This is unsafe. It needs to be replaced. People will ask, malpractice. You sign so many papers when you get these surgeries done. It is so difficult to sue a doctor. But for the first time, I've had a lot of malpractice with that other guy who left the surgical clips in me. This doctor was fired from his job. and my insurance company banned him from ever practicing under their insurance for the rest of his career.
Oh, wow.
So I got a little bit adjusted.
But it's sad that you have to go through something like that.
And I have a horrible, really awful scar on the left side of my chest to show for it from what he did to me. It's a constant reminder of what he did, and I always just picture his face when I see that, and him being like, I was trying to hide it for you. It just makes me so angry. So I've had a lot of downsides with doctors, but I've had a lot of wonderful doctors. Like you said, my last rheumatologist, he was one of the most amazing men I have ever met. First time I saw him, he said, you have a 1 in a million disorder. He goes, if you have multiple of them, you are what I live for. You are why I went into rheumatology. You are the reason. People like you. It's like I deal with, regular rheumatological issues all the time, but when I have a patient like you, this is why I did it. Tell me why he retired 3 months later. The one time when I really thought he's going to work hard, and he did. He saw me, he scheduled me for his last day of work so he could see me one more time. And his replacement, like you said, he's different. It's a different personality. I believe he's a good doctor, but he just doesn't have that loving, I'm going to take care of you, you're the reason I do this. He doesn't have that. So we're getting to know each other. I have an incredible neurologist who has taken myself and my mom on. She actually sees the whole family. She comes out to our van to see me for my visit. Doesn't make me go in there in the wheelchair because she knows it's very uncomfortable. She comes out to the van. What doctor have you heard that does that?
I know.
Yeah, our first visit, she came in on a Saturday to see me, so I didn't have to wait for hours because she spends hours with each patient. Hours. Sometimes it's a little frustrating because people leave at like 10 o'clock at night from her office, literally. You will be waiting for a long time, but it's worth it because she has changed my life.
Yeah,
so good and bad. Yes, she's extremely... she gave me her cell phone number the first day, and I bug her constantly. So there are doctors that will really change your life for the worse, but there's a lot that'll change your life for the better. It's just, like you said, advocating for yourself is the most important. Knowing when to say no, to speak up and say, no, I'm not comfortable with it. In the beginning, we didn't know we could do that.
Didn't have a clue.
No idea. So everybody listening, you can say no if you are uncomfortable with any procedure, any medication, even if what they're saying to you, you don't feel comfortable with. You don't have to accept that. And I think that's really important and something that really needs to be reiterated to people dealing with chronic health issues.
What does empowerment in illness mean to you?
Everything. You're giving a voice to people to speak their stories. And I think a lot of people with chronic illness, it's so lonely. It's such a lonely life sometimes. No one understands what you're going through. Your family, the healthy people around you, they don't get it. And I want you to know you're not a burden. And you need to share your story. This is empowerment. Us speaking with each other and sharing our stories. You allowing people to come on here and share their stories. Me, when I go on TikTok and I tell people, tell me what's going on with you. I want to know what you're dealing with. That is empowerment. Speaking your story. Telling people, hey, I'm in pain. I'm a person. I exist. This is important. I want someone to listen to me. So I want everyone to speak their story. Speak up. You're having a hard day. You're in a lot of pain. Tell somebody. Find someone that you can tell. Even if it's a therapist. There's so many benefits to having a therapist that you can speak to, that they're paid to listen to you say, I really don't feel good today, and I'm angry about it. Being able to have your voice heard is so important, and it will empower you. It really does. Listening to these podcasts, coming on to TikTok or any social media app, there's a lot of support groups. There's a lot of people that are willing to listen. We're out there. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your story. And keeping it to yourself and locking yourself away and keeping that pain built up and that anger built up is only hurting you even more. So empower yourself by speaking up. advocating for yourself, teaching other people about your illness, teaching them about what these things mean, how you can prevent it, how you can help yourself, your coping mechanisms. All of this is empowerment. And I really believe that's what it comes down to, is being able to speak. And you're giving a voice to so many, Gwen. It's really important. It really is.
Thank you. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a lot. You mean a lot. Continue to do TikTok. Continue to go and help others and talk about your story. You have so many autoimmune issues. You reach a lot of people because you're telling what it is, how it affects you, what they can do. So you're advocating for yourself, but you're also advocating for them. And that, to me, is a huge blessing. So I consider you to be a blessing. And thank you. I want you to continue giving hope and helping. And I will always come into your live when I'm awake because, you know, you come on a time.
I do go on pretty late. I am a night owl.
That's why I catch you sometimes. Sometimes I can't. If I'm in a lot of pain, I can't sleep. I'll get on there and then I'll see you. I appreciate you. And I wanted you to know that the work you're doing, even though we always think we're not doing what we can, but what you are doing is helping.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And, you know, it's funny that we did this today because last night I officially hit 20,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so we're going to have a little party tonight.
Awesome.
And if anyone listening would like to follow, my name on TikTok is at DAREUHH. My name is Dara, but I have to spell it phonetically because no one pronounces it correctly.
No. That I know.
It's an unusual name. It's an unusual name. But I spell it phonetically. DAREUHH.
Dara, I really do thank you for coming on to Empowerment in Illness. And thank you so much for being a part of our community.
Thank you so much for having me. You don't understand. I wish you could see the smile on my face. I really do, because this was wonderful. Just speaking about it really helps. It really does. And you allowing people to come up here onto your platform and share their story is just, you're changing lives. You really are. So many people are going to hear all of these stories, and it's going to help them. You're not alone out there. You're not alone, I promise. There's a lot of us in this community, and you are welcome. We will welcome you with open arms.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for letting me come on and share my story.
Before we leave, I would like to close with a special portion of the show I call Healing Heartbeat. This is where we allow ourselves to wallow in sorrow. Give yourself 3 minutes to laugh, cry, scream, cuss, or just sit in silence. Whatever you need to do to feel it, do it. Let the depression in for only 3 minutes. Once you've reached 3 minutes, compartmentalize it and get back to living. This is a rinse and repeat behavior. You cannot let depression take over, because when it does, it will not let go. When we hear about the passing of someone, they have the day they were born and the day they passed away. There is a dash in the middle. It's not a long line, but a short dash. That dash represents your life. Go live in spite of having a chronic condition. Don't let it stop you. As we wrap up Dara's inspiring story, we're reminded of the incredible strength and resilience she embodied. Living with multiple autoimmune diseases is no easy road. It's filled with countless challenges, setbacks, and moments that test even the toughest spirits. But Dara's journey is proof that with the right mindset, perseverance, and a heart full of hope, it's possible to rise above even the most daunting circumstances. She teaches us that while the struggles are real and raw, the will to find joy, purpose, and positivity in each day is what truly matters. Dara's story isn't just about survival. It's about thriving and showing us all that even when life throws its hardest punches, we have the power to stand up, smile, and keep moving forward. Thank you, Dara, for being a light and an inspiration to us all. To all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through Dara's story. I hope her resilience and unwavering positive outlook has touched your heart as deeply as they have mine. Life with chronic illness or autoimmune disease can be tough, but stories like Dara's remind us that there is always room for hope, growth, and finding light even in the darkest moments. You're not alone on this path. There's a whole community out here cheering you on. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and never forget that your story matters too. Take care of yourselves and keep finding those moments of joy. Until next time, remember, you have the strength, the heart, and the support to continue your journey. Be safe.